Today we're going to be looking at the top 15 best Christmas horror movies of all time. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everybody. And I'm really excited about this list because I don't see this as just my favorites that fit into the genre, because I'm not looking at movies that just happen to take place on or around Christmas, but these are the most Christmassy horror movies you can watch that are guaranteed to give you maximum festive vibes. So my name is Daniel with the Cobweb channel, and let's get started.
Merry Christmas!
Anything's better than being alone on Christmas Eve.
All the Creatures Were Stirring from 2018. This is a horror anthology about a couple on an awkward first date on Christmas Eve who go to a theater to see a strange play that ends up showing us 5 different segments of Christmas horror. This is one I just recently checked out, but I've been curious about it for a while because it's directed by Rebecca McKendry, one of the hosts of the Shockwaves and Colors of the Dark podcast. She actually wrote and directed this along with her husband. It is such a who's who of the LA indie horror scene. If you watch a lot of indie horror films in the 2010s, you're going to recognize so many people like Jocelyn Donahue, Graham Skipper, Chase Williamson, Bria Grant, even Constance Wu is in here in a small role, I guess before she made it big. And like most anthologies, it's definitely uneven, but I liked more than I disliked. I thought it had a solid wraparound, and the stories themselves all really try to be Christmassy. They all try to have some kind of Christmas theme to them. The first one about the horrors of Christmas office parties, which takes a lot of inspiration from Saw, especially Saw 2. And I thought it was pretty solid, especially with the cast. That one's probably got the best cast of the bunch. The second one about having car trouble in a parking lot on Christmas Eve when your entire family is expecting you back home. And that one is actually kind of amazing. It made the movie for me. It's very creepy and has a fascinating and very unique central idea to it. I was super impressed by it. It was executed so well. Then there's a strange take on A Christmas Carol that was okay and clearly hampered by the budget. Then there's one about a killer reindeer that is extremely hampered by the budget, as they can't really have a reindeer on screen, and I thought was pretty terrible. That was the worst of the bunch. And then the final one that takes a lot of inspiration from a certain bizarre cult classic of old Christmas movies. I think this definitely has to be at the bottom of the list, both because of quality and also it's maybe the least Christmassy in terms of visuals and vibes. They definitely filmed this in LA, so there is no snow to be found, and the decorations are a little bit few and far between, but I thought the themes of it made it festive enough, and I really enjoyed my time with it.
Want to put her in the mood? Watch a horror movie. I got you.
14, Better Watch Out from 2016. On a quiet suburban street, a babysitter must defend a 12-year-old boy from strangers breaking into the house. Sounds pretty typical, right? Sounds like a Christmas version of John Carpenter's Halloween. Well, it's not exactly that. This one is a tough one to talk about because I absolutely think you should go into it as blind as possible, and I can't really talk to you about what makes this movie good. I'll just say it's different. It's an unexpected movie, especially considering how basic the premise sounds. I would say the basic idea is it's trying to be a horror version of Home Alone, and I think works really well. First of all, the vibe of it is spectacular. It is very Christmassy. It's very cold and snowy outside. You've got tons of decorations indoors. The acting, all solid. Everybody's really good. It feels like a very professional production, even though it's definitely a smaller movie. It'll keep you guessing with some wild plot structure. It definitely got some violence to it, although not overly gory, which sometimes helps the actual intensity of it, which I think is really solid here. By the end of the movie, I mean, I was kind of desperate for it to not go a certain way. Like, this movie cannot let this happen. Please, please let something happen. So I definitely got invested into it. I would say my biggest problem with it and why I don't love it more is the villain is almost too hateable, where I hate this character so much that I almost can't stand it whenever the person is on screen. Like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely crazy. So Better Watch Out is solid, especially if you're a Home Alone fan and a horror fan. It's gonna bring them together.
Merry Christmas.
13, A Christmas Horror Story from 2015. This is another anthology, and it interweaves 4 tales on Christmas Eve in the town of Bailey Downs, all tied together through a local radio DJ. It seems like it's trying to be a Christmas version of Trick or Treat, and while it's nowhere near as good as that, it's pretty successful. I really enjoy this movie. It has a very Christmassy feel. I like that it all takes place in this one town. It's got that small town Christmas kind of atmosphere, especially helped by the fact that the radio DJ is William Shatner. And he's just chilling, getting drunk in a really festive radio station. And I just love whenever it cuts back to him. But the segments themselves, they are really, really dark. And that's one thing I enjoy about this genre as a whole, is they have that festive, cozy Christmas atmosphere that I love. I just love the Christmas season. But they counteract it with really dark, messed up, gruesome horror. Christmas horror movies tend to go pretty far, and this one definitely does. While it does try to have Christmassy themes to the different segments, there's even one that almost seems like a basic ghost story, but it's actually using ideas from the Virgin Mary and the biblical Christmas story. And I thought including those ideas in your Christmas horror movie was a ballsy move, and I respected it. But you've also got Santa Claus here fighting off zombie elves. You've got a family going out to cut down a Christmas tree and something really bad happens. And Krampus is in here, and Krampus is the all-time greatest character of all Christmas horror. And while the design here is not my favorite, he kind of looks like a pro wrestler, it's pretty faithful to original designs of what Krampus looks like. And the movie is fun, exciting, really, really dark, and I'm a fan. Jack Frost from 1997. On his way to be executed, the vehicle containing notorious serial killer Jack Frost collides with a hazardous chemical truck, turning him into a snow-covered mutant snowman and unleashes him upon a small town. And yes, his name is Jack Frost. He doesn't become Jack Frost when he turns into a killer snowman. He was Jack Frost from the start. I mean, what are the odds? So even if you've never seen this movie, you're probably familiar with it because it's one of the all-time most notorious bad movies. If you watch like YouTube compilations of like the worst movies or YouTubers that like to make fun of bad movies, you'll see things like Troll 2, The Wicker Man remake, and Jack Frost. But I kind of think that's a little misleading because Jack Frost is totally in on the joke. This is a comedy. This is a full-on horror comedy that knows exactly what it is. And I think it works. I think it's fun. Probably its real biggest sin is it's a total Chucky ripoff. It is so obviously just like serial killer as some supernatural happen, turns into a killer doll, a killer snowman and starts killing people. It's that formula, but it's a good formula, and I like movies like this. And like a lot of these movies, the vibe is so good. It's a snowy small town that focuses on the small town sheriff. It's really like a Hallmark movie kind of atmosphere, just if a Hallmark movie was super dark, twisted, violent, and crazy. Probably the most notable cast member is Shannon Elizabeth in an early role. I think it's actually her first movie, and she's got this one hilarious scene where her and her boyfriend are about to get down and have a good time, and they just start taking their clothes off and have to take off so many different layers because it's so cold outside that it takes forever to get dressed. It's so funny. And then she's got another scene with the killer snowman that's also pretty notorious, very sick and twisted, but this is a movie that goes there. It's a completely ridiculous movie, and most of the flicks on this list are better than this, but not many are quite this fun.
That's a barn elf.
Are they real?
Yes.
What do you think? No!
There's Something in the Barn from 2023. An American family is able to move back to the father's roots, a remote cabin in the mountains of Norway. But there's a frightening surprise waiting for them in the barn. A barn elf. So I said Christmas horror movies tend to be really sick and twisted, right? That's usually the trend. This one isn't. This is an example of a really fun, pleasant, cozy family Christmas horror movie, and I have a bias towards that, guys. I just really like this kind of spooky story during the Christmas season. And this one is just a blast. I really like the family that we focus on. Martin Starr is actually the dad, along with the stepmother, who's not an evil stepmother. She's actually really nice. And the two kids who are struggling to adjust to this new life in rural Norway. The culture clash aspect to it is really entertaining. And just the vibe of Norway in the winter during the Christmas season. There's snow everywhere. It's so Christmassy with all the decorations. I just absolutely love it. But yeah, the spookiness of this story comes from Norwegian folklore of barn elves. Kind of like Santa's elves, although there's not actually any Santa Claus in here. The elves live in the barn and they are not happy with other people moving into the house, and they're going to launch some vengeance. And you do get some crazy, violent attack sequences of people having to fight off these elves. And it's also fun that the elves are not completely evil villains. Like, they are understandable, and the son's really trying to bond with them and trying to make peace. But peace is a hard thing to get when you're in a horror movie. I just really enjoy this. It's fun. It's funny. I like the characters. I like the drama going on. This movie is a warm blanket of holiday spookiness. Number 10, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker from 1991. A toy maker's creations display some very human and very deadly tendencies. I think it's fair to say that Silent Night, Deadly Night is the most prolific Christmas horror franchise there is. There's actually about to be a new one in a couple of weeks. Just sadly, I wasn't able to see it before making this list. But after the first two movies, which are very closely connected, the series becomes like an anthology kind of thing, which is wildly different tales. And the fifth one is the best of those, for sure. And it's really hard to describe what it's about because it doesn't really have a straightforward plot. It's kind of a series of events that, yes, involve toys coming to life, which is inherently Christmassy, right? But there's so many weird details to this movie. I mean, for one thing, it's starring Mickey Rooney, who was actually one of the people who really campaigned against the immorality of the first film. And it's so horrible to include Santa Claus in Christmas. And here he is in the fifth one. I almost feel like it was some kind of sweet vengeance that the filmmakers got him to agree to be in this. And he is the owner of the toy shop called Pedo's Toy Shop, which is like gross and weird and creepy, just like this entire movie. Gross and weird and creepy, but mostly in a good way. This is gory, this is really sleazy, and it is totally bonkers. You've got so many wild sequences, crazy deaths, and the ending is so insane. Like, the visuals are so bizarre and uncomfortable. I just feel like, what am I watching? Like, why did people put this into a movie? But I'm glad they did. I respect it. This movie's a wild ride, but it's very Christmassy and very fun.
You better believe in Santa, or he'll slay you. Christmas Evil.
Christmas Evil from 1980. Garbed in his red suit, Harry, a toy factory worker, decides that the only thing he can do to save the spirit of Christmas is to become Santa Claus himself. Of all the movies on this list, this one was the hardest to rank because it's a good movie. It's actually kind of a really good movie, but it's less of a crowd pleaser. It's definitely less enjoyable, and while I don't always need my horror movies to be fun, I can't deny that I definitely gravitate towards that when it comes to Christmas horror in particular. I just like enjoyable, entertaining movies this time of year with that festive spirit. And this one is really dark, and it takes things very seriously. There is a lot about the legend of Santa Claus that is weird and creepy, particularly if you are just a person and not a magical figure. And when a person is doing it, it's very off-putting. And once he puts on that Santa suit, the movie really toys with your emotions, where sometimes he does good things. He does really inspiring things, and he does bring some Christmas cheer to people. But because his grip on reality is so poor, he will sometimes lose control of situations and end up killing people. And this is a killer Santa Claus movie. He does do horrible things. Like, I think the most disturbing moment in the movie for me is when he tries to go down a chimney. And you really see, if you are not a magical being, that is a horrifying prospect. The performance of Brandon Maggart in the lead is terrific. He's very sympathetic and sad, but scary. And you've also got Jeffrey DeMunn in a supporting role as his brother trying to help him. This movie is very interesting, very well done for its low budget, but it's kind of depressing. It's a bummer vibe, perhaps until the end of the movie, which I think is one of the greatest endings I've maybe ever seen. Check it out. Dial Code Santa Claus from 1990. Home alone with his invalid grandfather on Christmas Eve, Thomas is forced to face a department store Santa Claus who is in fact a deranged escapee from a nearby asylum. This is another one that really feels like a horror version of Home Alone. It's about a kid who's mostly home alone. He does have his grandfather there, who's got to defend his house and go into like action hero mode, setting up traps, trying to stop this killer who's after him. But the funny thing is, this came out the same year as Home Alone, so it's really hard to even accuse either movie of ripping who off. This is actually a French film, and it's very well done. I imagine if this wasn't French, it was just an American movie, in 1990, it probably would have been significantly lower budget, but this looks beautiful. It's got gorgeous cinematography, great music, excellent performances. This kid is nuts. First of all, he's got the craziest looking mullet I've ever seen, and he's absolutely obsessed with action movies, Arnold and Stallone. So he does truly go into action hero mode on purpose to fight this incredibly creepy guy dressed up as Santa Claus. And the movie doesn't really pull any punches on just how weird and creepy he is and how uncomfortable he's going to make you, which makes it all the more satisfying to watch this kid go after this guy hard. It's really violent, really exciting. It's got a very festive atmosphere. It's very colorful. I'm a big fan of this one.
He knows if you've been bad or good.
Number 7, Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale from 2010. On Christmas Eve, a young boy living with his reindeer-herding father in Arctic Finland makes a frightening discovery, leading to the threat of an evil Santa Claus being unleashed. This is actually a movie from Finland, and it's got such a great snowy, cold, wintertime atmosphere to it, although it is less Christmassy than a lot of the other movies on the list. There's not a lot of Christmas decorations around. It is about people who live in the middle of nowhere. It's just going to be a little less festive. But this is another film that really uses the idea that Santa Claus can be a little bit creepy to its full advantage. I love the lore of this movie, where it's really about discovering that the true legend of Santa Claus, the reality that all of these myths are based on, is something much darker than what we understand today. And the real Santa Claus was a much more frightening spirit. And the movie builds a lot of tension and anticipation on what is this Santa Claus going to be like. And when it's revealed, it's wild. It is pretty darn crazy. I would say my biggest problem with the movie is that it doesn't go even further, because I love the central ideas of this film so much. Like, I just want to see more and more. Like, give me a Rare Export sequel. I would be so down for that. And not even just Santa, but the elves. I always love when a Christmas horror movie can use the idea of elves for something creepy, and this one does that really, really well. It looks great. It's got very solid performances, and it's just a very interesting Christmas story.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Number 6, Terrifier 3. From 2024. 5 years after surviving Art the Clown's Halloween massacre, Sienna and Jonathan are still struggling to rebuild their shattered lives. As the holiday season approaches, they try to embrace the Christmas spirit, but just when they think they're safe, Art returns. This is the latest Terrifier movie, and the one that moved the series from being entirely based in Halloween to being about Christmas. And I think that was such a good idea, because for one thing, those first two Terrifier movies, especially the second one, are so good at going all in on a Halloween feel and vibe. And this one might go even further for Christmas. This is probably one of the most Christmassy movies on this list. There are decorations everywhere. It is so festive. It's got a bit of a vintage 90s kind of feel to the Christmas decorations. You get those nice big bulbs. You guys know what I'm talking about? Art the Clown is wearing a Santa Claus suit for most of the film, and it also works as a Christmas movie for me because it is ultimately about family. It's about the two siblings trying to come back together, trying to get past their trauma. Lauren Levera does such an amazing job as Sienna, as a character who is so horribly traumatized and desperately trying to move past it. It makes the movie feel more meaningful, especially as they're coming together with some extended family that they go to live with. It's got a very family holiday feel to it. In addition to being horrifically deranged, this movie is so gory. It is so sick. It is so blood gushingly disgusting that you shouldn't watch it if you're going to have a problem with that. But for me, most of it wasn't too disturbing because it's so over the top. I just kind of have fun with it. But even I got pretty sickened at points. Like, Victoria is the scariest character in this franchise. She absolutely horrifies me, and she really, really does here. One of my favorite things about this series is also one thing that I hear complaints about the most, but it's not a basic slasher franchise. I love the supernatural aspects to it and the way the lore is building and getting crazier with each sequel, and I'm so excited to see where things can possibly go in Terrifier 4. But the last thing I have to say about this one, it has its own Christmas song. It's a Terrifier Christmas, it's gonna fill your heart. And I believe it is the only movie on the list that has its own themed Christmas song. And how can you not love that? Cracking into the top 5, Black Christmas from 2006. Also known as Black Xmas, this takes place on Christmas Eve, where an escaped maniac returns to his childhood home, which is now a sorority house, and begins to murder the sorority sisters one by one. This is, of course, the first remake to the classic Black Christmas from the 1970s. There was another one in the 2010s, but is really a remake in name only, has nothing to do with the series. This one very much is a remake, but even though it's not as good as the original, I think it justifies its existence very well by the fact that it is so insane, so deranged, and goes so much further than the first film. It's not scarier than the first movie, but it's more sick, twisted, and disturbing. And sometimes I just respect that. Like, don't let your remake just be a watered down version of the original. Do something nuts. And this one absolutely does. I love the feel of it. It feels like a very 2000s horror movie, which might have been annoying at the time, but is pretty nostalgic at this point. It's got a really good cast if you're nostalgic for this time period, like Michelle Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Lacey Chabert, who's the star of, like, I think 85% of all Christmas rom-coms. It also lets us know a lot more about the central killer. While the killer is such a mystery in the first one, this one they get much more into his backstory, and it's really disturbing. Like, there's some really messed up stuff. The movie is all in all very trashy. It's extremely violent. It's got one of the craziest kills I've ever seen in my life involving an icicle. More of a death than a kill, really. But I think it's so entertaining for how audacious it is, and perhaps the trashiness kind of blocked people's view of how pretty well made technically it is too. It's very well shot. It's intense. It's scary at times. It works.
You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas.
Number 4, Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. Billy Chapman, who was traumatized by his parents' Christmas Eve murder, grows up to dress as Jolly St. Nick for a Yuletide rampage to punish the naughty. While I know most people could argue there's a lot of movies below this that are better than Silent Night, Deadly Night, I just gotta give it so much respect because I think it's like the quintessential Christmas horror movie. I don't think many people will call it the best, but it's probably the one most people will think of first, partially for the huge impact that it made when it came out. It wasn't the first movie to do a killer Santa Claus. You had Christmas Evil before this. You also had the Tales from the Crypt movie before this that has one killer Santa Christmas segment that's absolutely fantastic. But it broke into the cultural mainstream, and there was so much moral outrage about this movie. Protests, people talking about how evil it was that they would make a Santa Claus a killer in a movie. That's such a common thing now. I don't think anybody thinks anything of it. But in the 1980s, it was a big deal.
There's no question in my mind that the showing of Santa with an axe is sick and sleazy and mean-spirited. Shame on you. You people have nothing to be proud of. Your profits truly are blood money.
But all that aside, I think the movie itself is really fun. Man, it is so entertaining. Unlike many of its slasher contemporaries, this is packed with plot. This is not a movie where you're going to watch teenagers kind of hang out, have sex, drink, and then get picked off one by one. This movie has so much backstory. It gets deep into the killer's psychology. I mean, you've even got an extended 80s cheeseball montage of the guy working at a toy store. Man, I love that part so much. But also, if you specifically watch the unrated cut of this, not the theatrical cut, I'm really judging this based on the unrated cut, it is so gory. It is so trashy. It goes so much further than most 80s slashers do. I just can't believe how many gruesome kills you get in here. You can get it today on the Scream Factory Blu-ray, and I think it's awesome.
Hello?
Hey, Mommy. Hey, baby. What are you doing?
Number 3, Black Christmas. From 1974. As the residents of a sorority house prepare for the festive season, a stranger begins a series of obscene phone calls with murderous intentions. This is a really popular movie today. It has garnered such a cult following to a massive degree, and it really deserves it, man. When I first saw it years ago, I thought it was the scariest slasher movie I'd ever seen. Because I love slashers, but it's not a scary subgenre for me. Usually, like, that goes to, like, ghost movies and paranormal and stuff like that. This one is scary, and it's not even really that violent, although there is an incredibly iconic kill scene in here, visually speaking especially. But for the most part, what gets me about this movie is the tension, the building dread, and the phone calls. When this killer is doing prank phone calls to the sorority house, he is saying the most vile, despicable things with the creepiest voice, and it just gets under my skin, man. It bothers me. But something surprising about that is it's directed by Bob Clark, who is the guy that directed A Christmas Story, which is wild. Like, he's made 2 of the best Christmas movies of all time on wildly opposite ends of the spectrum, but he still brings his talent for comedy here. This is so not a horror comedy, and it takes itself very seriously, but there are some great laughs peppered throughout, through just organic character interactions, funny things people will say. The house mother actually really cracks me up in this. And the cast definitely helps for that. You've got Olivia Hussey in the lead role, an interesting character, going through some interesting things in here. Margot Kidder and John Saxon. John Saxon rules in this movie. He's probably my favorite part. As far as how Christmassy it is, it doesn't have a lot of Christmas in the plot, but it does have a very festive vibe. There's a lot of decorations around. Something about the way the old-timey lights, Christmas lights look in here is very cozy and comforting to me. I love the look of them, and you get a lot of Christmas music all throughout, often to creepy effect. Black Christmas is awesome.
You're gonna like this. No, don't shake it. We're gonna have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
Gremlins.
The runner-up, Gremlins, from 1984. When Billy is given a strange but adorable pet named Gizmo for Christmas, he inadvertently breaks the 3 important rules of caring for a mogwai, unleashing a horde of mischievous gremlins on a small town. First of all, let me address the all too common accusation that Gremlins is not a horror movie, and I totally disagree, guys. It's a horror comedy for sure, but it's about a bunch of monsters attacking a town. There's a lot of violence, and this movie absolutely terrified my little brother when we were growing up. It didn't scare me personally, but man, he still doesn't want to watch Gremlins. It was a traumatizing event. Now, I already told you my bias for Christmas horror movies that are enjoyable, that are breezy, and this is one of the best at that. I love the atmosphere of this. It is so comforting. It is such a warm blanket. It's got that snowy small town vibe that very much feels like a soundstage, but in that good 80s Amblin kind of way that I'm such a big fan of. Joe Dante actually directed this. He's one of my favorite directors of all time, and this is one of his best movies. You gotta love Gizmo so much. He's one of the most adorable, lovable characters in all of cinema. But when the Gremlins turn into monsters, guys, it's legit. This is a monster movie. Like, they are pretty horrifying. They are crazy. They get into so much mischief and a lot of violence. And the practical effects are just peak. This is one of my favorite practical effects movies of all time. I mean, the puppetry. I love a good puppet in a horror movie, and this is some of the best you're ever gonna get. I love the cast of characters with Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates. Phoebe Cates is a popular actress to crush on, I think mostly because of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but for me, it's because of Gremlins. I love Phoebe Cates and Gremlins. Even Judge Reinhold is in here, who's also in the Santa Claus, so he's a bit of a Christmas king. Gremlins is a spooky movie you can watch with the whole family. Everybody can have a good time. The kids might get a little bit scared, but it's Christmas horror at its most enjoyable. At number 1, Krampus, from 2015. When his dysfunctional family clashes over the holidays, young Max is disillusioned and turns his back on Christmas. Little does he know, this lack of festive spirit has unleashed the wrath of Krampus, a force of ancient evil. So I'm willing to admit, I think I like this movie more than most people do, because for me, it's my number 1 by far. Like, it's not even close. In fact, this is the only Christmas horror movie that I always watch every single Christmas season. Never miss it. Everything else, I just kind of switch them out and I'll watch different Christmas horror movies and I'll check out ones I've never seen. But Krampus is a tradition. What I love so much about it is it works equally well as a traditional family Christmas movie and as a horror movie, because it reminds me a lot of Christmas Vacation. I think it's fair to say it's taken a lot of inspiration from it. It's got that dysfunctional families getting together, the more redneck family coming in like Cousin Eddie, but here he's played by David Koechner and he's hilarious. He's one of my favorite characters in the movie. And all of that is fun, it's festive, but it's got character drama to it, so it's not boring and it's not overly sappy. But once it becomes a horror movie, I think it's a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. But I admit it changed a little bit for me once I had a kid, because before I saw it as a little bit more of a horror comedy. And I think it's fair to say it is, but after becoming a parent, I realized this movie's pretty harrowing. Like, it's a lot darker as the movie goes than I realized. There is some brutal stuff, some scary stuff that happens in here, even though it's PG-13. So it's not gory, it's more brutal in what it suggests. And I have zero complaints about the fact that it's PG-13. I love that it's like a family Christmas movie that still works as a scary horror movie. And Krampus is the greatest Christmas horror character of all time. And this movie is my favorite Krampus. It's a little bit of a different design, a creative design to him, but I think it is the best ever. He looks amazing, and he's surrounded by so many minions, elves, and toys that are coming to life, and gingerbread men, which are maybe a little too silly, but I still like them. Michael Dougherty directed this, who also made Trick or Treat, so he made an ultimate Halloween movie and an ultimate Christmas movie, and he made sure to fill this with so many practical effects, prosthetics, suits, and festive decorations. I could not love this movie more. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, especially during the holidays. It means so much. And if anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Kyle Roderick, Richard Joshua Farley, and Chloe Scott. You all absolutely rule. If you want to check these out for yourself, I do have streaming recommendations right here on the screen, but of course those are subject to change, so I've also got physical media links in the description, and using those does help support the channel. What other Christmas horror movies do you love? Let me know down in the comments below, and you can click the video on the screen if you want to hang out with me more. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to have a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time. Bye.